Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading deep into Middle-earth to unpack a character many of us think we know really well, Legolas Greenleaf.
Hmm.
Now, when I say Legolas, you probably picture the swift blonde-haired elf from Peter Jackson's movies, right? The amazing archer.
Absolutely. That's the image, isn't it?
But what if I told you the Legolas in Tolkien's original books is, well, a bit different? There are layers, mysteries, maybe even a personality that could surprise you.
That's exactly what we're aiming for in this deep dive. We're going to sift through the sources you sent over, pull out those really key bits of info.
Okay.
We'll look at the main differences, book versus movie, maybe touch on why Peter Jackson made certain choices, and really trace Legolas's whole story, from his very mysterious past right up to his pretty unique ending.
Prepare to see Legolas in a new light, then.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, let's start with the book Legolas. Tolkien's Legolas. He's a Sindar elf, right? One of the Grey Elves.
That's right.
Son of King Thranduil of the Woodland Realm. So he's a prince.
A prince, yeah, from Mirkwood.
Now, with that kind of background, you'd think we'd get a lot of backstory. But what does the book actually tell us about his early life, his origins?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, especially if you're into Tolkien's process.
Yeah.
His history before Lord of the Rings. It's pretty much, as the sources say, shrouded in mystery.
Really? Almost nothing.
Almost nothing specific, yeah. His deeds are almost non-existent in the record before the Fellowship. And the fascinating thing is, Tolkien originally planned for Glorfindel to be the elf in the Fellowship.
Glorfindel, the one from the Fall of Gondolin?
That's the one, an ancient, incredibly powerful elf. But Tolkien realized he was, and I quote, way too powerful. It kind of killed the tension, If you've got this near demigod figure, where's the danger for the others?
Okay. That makes sense.
So Legolas was sort of brought in to fill that role,
Mhm.
which meant, kind of accidentally, his backstory got a bit, well, neglected, as the source puts it.
Mhm.
Tolkien just didn't need to flesh it out for the plot at that point.
Yeah. Wow. So Legolas was almost a narrative substitute, leaving his past pretty blank. That's wild.
It really is a fascinating glimpse into how the story evolved.
Okay, so aside from the mystery, what about his core traits? His personality in the books? What defines him?
Well, the books are very clear about his skills. Exceptional archer, obviously.
The best, maybe.
Arguably, yeah. Superior sight and hearing, that classic elf package. And incredibly light-footed. Remember him walking on the snow in Caradhras.
Oh, yeah. While everyone else was struggling.
Exactly. He's also a linguist. Speaks Sindarin, his people's tongue, Sylvan, the dialect of the Wood Elves, and Westron, the common tongue.
Which came in handy.
Very handy, yeah, especially in Lorien.
Yep.
Apparently most elves there didn't speak Westron, so he was crucial for communication. But maybe his most defining trait, the one that really helped the Fellowship, was his everlasting sense of positivity.
Everlasting positivity. I like that.
Yeah, he just kept spirits up. Think about the paths of the dead. Aragorn decides to go. Gimli is, understandably, terrified. But Legolas, just unwavering. I will go with you, basically, no hesitation. And he was wise, too. He was the first one in Moria to figure out what Durin's Bane was.
A Balrog.
A Balrog, yeah. An ancient demon of shadow and flame. Even Gandalf didn't immediately recognize it, but Legolas did. Shows a deep, maybe ancient knowledge.
Wow, everlasting positivity and deep wisdom. That's quite a combination. It really contrasts with some of the others, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It's funny, though, Tolkien gives us all that about his skills in mind, but his actual physical appearance, the books are super vague, aren't they?
Famously vague, yeah. The first description is just a strange elf clad in green and brown. That's it.
Green and brown, no mention of hair color.
Nope, never specified. Which is interesting because it led to Tolkien getting quite annoyed later on.
Yeah.
He made this wrathful comment, apparently, about a picture somebody drew.
Wrathful. Tolkien.
Yeah, he didn't like a depiction he thought was too pretty or ladylike. He wanted Legolas seen as powerful. He described him as, let me see, tall as a young tree, lithe, immensely strong. Yeah, meaning nimble, agile, but strong. Able swiftly to draw a great warbow and shoot down a Nazgul, endowed with the tremendous vitality of elvish body, so hard and resistant to hurt that he went only in light shoes over rock or through snow, the most tireless of all the Fellowship.
Wow. Okay, so Tolkien wasn't about the aesthetics. He was about the inherent power and resilience of the elf.
Exactly. He was protecting the idea of his elves, not just a pretty face.
That's a really strong reaction. Okay, so that's book Legolas. Mysterious past, super skilled, positive, resilient, appearance unspecified, but definitely powerful. How did Peter Jackson take that and, flesh him out for the movies? What did he add?
Well, Jackson certainly gave him a very defined look and presence.
Mm,
Tall, blonde, fair, carrying, as the source says, the wisdom of his age in his eyes.
that iconic look.
Yeah, and the movies give him specific defining moments, like at the Council of Elrond, where he stands up to Boromir, making sure Boromir knows exactly who Aragorn really is.
This is Isildur's heir, that moment.
That's the one. Jackson used visual storytelling and specific confrontations to build his character quickly for the audience, translating that inner elven power into, well, into action sequences. Lots of action sequences.
And speaking of building character, one of the absolute highlights of the movies, maybe more so than in the books, is that friendship between Legolas and Gimli.
Oh, absolutely.
The banter, that still only counts as one, kill counting.
Yeah.
Audiences loved that. How did the film show that compared to the books?
Yeah, the films really lean into that banter-filled friendship, the competition for kills, the gentle teasing. It provides so much warmth and humor.
Definitely.
And there are small moments, too, like Legolas' little smile, that knowing look. When Gimli tells the story about Galadriel giving him 3 hairs, it shows a real understanding and respect between them.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
But the key difference is when this bond develops. The movies show it getting really strong during the quest, before the ring is destroyed. It's part of their shared journey.
Whereas the book,
The book suggests it grows closer after the war. It's still there, definitely, but it feels more like a respect earned over the long haul, solidifying later. Jackson, understandably for film, accelerated that relationship arc, made it central to the trilogy's heart.
makes sense for pacing and audience connection, yeah. Now, we talked about book Legolas being the everlasting optimist. Does movie Legolas have moments where he's less so? Does he show doubt?
He does, actually,
Hmm.
which adds another layer, maybe a more human, relatable one. While he's a steadfast, good friend, the movies show him question his friends, or at least the situations they're in.
Like when?
The big one's before Helm's Deep. He has that moment of despair, basically tells Aragorn they're all going to die, that there's no hope.
They are all going to die. Yeah, I remember.
He regrets it later, apologizes, but it's a clear moment where his optimism falters. It makes him a bit more vulnerable than the book version, who seems almost immune to that kind of doubt.
Interesting contrast. Okay, let's dig into some direct comparisons then. The big one fans always argue about, appearances. Specifically, the hair. Dark versus blonde, what's the deal?
Yes, the great hair debate. It seems small, but people get passionate. As we said, the movie Blonde, the book is unspecified.
So where does the blonde idea even come from, if not the main books?
Well, the argument often points to his father, Thranduil, who is described as having golden hair in The Hobbit. So, genetics, maybe?
Okay, fair enough. What's the counter-argument?
The counter is based on deeper Tolkien lore. Generally, Sindar elves, which Legolas is, had dark hair. Blonde hair was typically a trait of the Vanya, a different group of elves, and maybe some highborn Noldor with Vanir ancestry, like Galadriel or Finrod. It was rare among the Sindar.
So Thranduil might have been an exception, or maybe his description in The Hobbit wasn't meant to be taken so literally across his whole family line.
Possibly. And remember that line about his head being dark-crowned with sharp white stars when he shot the Nazgul. Some try to argue that means dark hair, but it almost certainly refers to the night sky behind him.
Okay.
So really, Jackson's choice for blonde hair was likely just that, a choice. Maybe to fit a visual archetype, make him stand out, align him with the sort of noble elf image people expect. It's a cinematic decision more than a strictly lore-based one.
Got it. What about his physical feats? The movies are packed with these incredible gravity-defying stunts, sliding downstairs, shooting arrows, surfing on a shield, taking down that Mumakil.
The Alphonse takedown, yeah.
Did those have any basis in the books, or is that pure Jackson?
Well, the specific choreography, no. You won't find passages describing him shield surfing or climbing in Oliphant like that.
Okay.
But are those feats out of the realm of possibilities for book Legolas? Probably not. Given his described agility, strength, tirelessness, and skill, they're exaggerations, sure, cinematic flourishes, but they stem from his core elven abilities.
So plausible, if not literal.
Plausible in spirit, let's say. And you have to compare it to what he does do in the book. Shooting down a Nazgul's flying steed, a fell beast high in the sky in near darkness. That requires unbelievable skill.
That's true. Maybe less flashy, but technically amazing.
Exactly. You could even argue, as the source does, that the Nazgul shot is potentially more impressive, if anything, It's just presented differently. Tolkien describes the result and the implication of the skill. Jackson shows you the process in spectacular fashion.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, beyond the physical stuff, how do their personalities really diverge when you get past the surface level?
I think the core difference comes back to that mystery element.
Hmm.
Book Legolas is, as we said, quite secretive and more mysterious. We just know less about him, his thoughts, his past, compared to even someone like Gimli, ironically.
Huh. Never thought of it that way.
Both versions obviously enjoy a joke, and both overcome that initial elf-dwarf prejudice to form that incredible bond with Gimli. But the movie, as we noted, really plays up to this bond much, much earlier. It's central from the get-go. And the biggest personality shift is that book Ever Optimist versus the movie Legolas, who will question his friends and show moments of doubt or near despair. It makes movie Legolas maybe feel a bit more grounded, perhaps, more relatable to a modern audience experiencing hardship. But it does change that fundamental, unwavering hopefulness from the books.
Yeah, it definitely adds a different texture. Okay, fantastic summary of the differences. Let's zoom out now. His whole life. We know the origins are murky, but what do we know about his age? And any activities before the Fellowship, besides being Thranduil's son?
Okay, age. His exact birth date is never actually stated. That mystery again. But we have clues. He says he's seen many an oak grow from acorn to ruinous age.
That sounds old.
Very old. He also specifically mentions 500 times have the red leaves fallen in Mirkwood in my home. So based on that, the speculation is he's at least 500 years old and possibly much older. Could be thousands, really. Elves live a long time.
500 years minimum. Okay. And before Rivendell, any hints of what he was up to?
Well, we can connect some dots. Remember Gollum? Aragorn captured him.
Right, and Gandalf interrogated him.
And where was Gollum held prisoner for a time?
Ah, Thranduil's kingdom, Mirkwood.
Exactly. So it's highly likely Legolas was involved in guarding Gollum. He might have even met Aragorn and Gandalf then, during that period. He was certainly involved in the fighting when Gollum escaped during an orc raid.
Ah, okay.
In fact, the whole reason Legolas came to Rivendell for the Council of Elrond was specifically to bring the news that Gollum had escaped from their custody. He was the messenger.
So his arrival wasn't random. He had a specific mission tied to the prelude of the main story.
Precisely. He was already part of the unfolding events.
Got it. Okay, his journey during the War of the Ring is the part most people know best. But let's highlight some key moments that really showcase those unique elven abilities we talked about.
Oh, there are so many great ones. His eyesight meant he was often the rear guard, the eyes of the Fellowship. In Holland, that ancient deserted land, he said he could hear the stones lament them, just incredibly attuned. We mentioned him walking on the snow on Caradhras. His bulwark against the wargs near the Gap of Rohan. The source says his bow of Legolas was singing, and his last arrow magically kindled and burned.
Wow, magical arrows.
Seems like it, yeah. A flash of elven magic. Then in Moria, that moment of fear, yes, but also recognition, realizing it was a Balrog before anyone else. Deep knowledge there. His time in Lorien was significant too. Seeing the ancient song of Nimrodel, acting as translator, his initial, very elven pride being offended at the thought of being blindfolded.
Right, he didn't like that.
Yeah. Then receiving Galadriel's gifts, the elven cloak and brooch, and crucially, a new bow, a Galadrim bow and quiver, which he then used to shoot down the fell beast over Emyn Muil.
That amazing shot again.
An amazing shot. And finally, at Emyn Hen, during the breaking of the Fellowship, fighting orcs relentlessly until he literally ran out of arrows, then seamlessly switching to his long knife. Just pure elven warrior.
Those moments really paint a picture of his capabilities. Okay, let's talk about something really interesting from Lorien. Galadriel's prophecy to him. It's quite poetic, isn't it? What did it foretell?
It really is beautiful and quite haunting. Galadriel says to him, Legolas Greenleaf long under tree, in joy thou hast lived. Which is true. He loved his forest home.
Okay.
Then the warning. Beware of the sea. If thou hearest the cry of the gull on the shore, thy heart shall then rest in the forest no more.
Wow. A longing for the sea, basically. Which is a big theme for elves, isn't it? That pull towards the west.
A huge theme. It represents both their ancient origins and their ultimate destiny. The call to return to the undying lands.
So that prophecy hangs over him. What actually happened to Legolas after the War of the Ring was won? Did he just go back to Mirkwood?
Not immediately. He stayed for Aragorn's coronation and wedding, celebrating the victory. Then, remarkably, he fulfilled his promise to Gimli.
The promise about the caves.
Exactly. He went with Gimli to explore the glittering caves of Aglarond, behind Helm's Deep, which Gimli apparently found incredibly beautiful. And Gimli, in return, went with Legolas into Fangorn Forest.
Facing his fear of forests for his friend. That's great.
It really shows the depth of their bond. Afterwards, Gimli did establish a dwarven colony in the Glittering Caves. And Legolas, he did something quite significant. He gathered some of his people, the Elves of Greenwood.
Greenwood the Great. Mirkwood's original name.
Right, a sign of its healing. He brought them south to Ithilien, that lovely land in Gondor that had been ravaged by war. And he settled there, making it, as the source says, the fairest country once more. He helped rebuild Minas Tirith, too, planting gardens and trees, working alongside Gimli's dwarves who were rebuilding the gates, elves and dwarves working together to heal the land.
That's a beautiful image of reconciliation. So he found a new home for a time.
For a time, yes. But the sea.
Ah, the prophecy. How did that finally play out, his ultimate fate?
It's one of the most moving endings. Apparently, during the war, down near the southern coasts at Pelargir, Legolas did hear the cry of seagulls.
Whoa.
And just as Galadriel warned, it struck at the elf's heart. The sea longing awoke in him. After the war, though he lived in Ithilien, he was apparently often seen walking in the woods, singing of the sea. His heart truly didn't rest in the forest anymore.
So the call was too strong.
Eventually, yes.
Really?
After Aragorn, his friend and king, finally passed away, Aragorn lived to be 210, remember?
A long life for a man, but not for an elf.
Not at all. After Aragorn's death, Legolas decided it was time. He built a gray ship in Ithilien, sailed down the river Anduin, and went west over the sea to the Undying Lands.
Finally answering the call.
But here's the truly amazing, unique part. He didn't go alone.
He took Gimli.
He took Gimli with him, his dearest friend, which makes Gimli, son of Glóin, the first and only dwarf to ever set foot in the Undying Lands.
Wow, that's incredible. Why? How was that allowed?
The book suggests it was out of respect for his friendship with Legolas, and perhaps also because of his reverence for Galadriel. But it's unprecedented, and the source speculates something quite profound here.
Yeah.
That maybe this final act confirms that Legolas, perhaps unlike many elves, chose friendship over romance or other ties. That his bond with Gimli was so deep, so transcendent, it literally carried them both to the shores of Aman. A really powerful statement about their connection.
That is, yeah, incredibly powerful. A dwarf in the Undying Lands because of friendship.
Testament to them both.
So we've really covered a huge sweep there. From Legolas, the mysterious elf prince of Mirkwood, through the Fellowship, the war, his post-war life, and that final unique voyage west with Gimli, we've seen how Tolkien left things open.
Deliberately so, yeah.
And how Peter Jackson filled some of those gaps, adding the cinematic flair, creating interpretations that are, both faithful in spirit but also distinct.
And what's really striking, I think, is how Legolas, whether you're reading the book or watching the film, really embodies these themes of unexpected friendship, deep loyalty, and overcoming those ancient prejudices. Elf and dwarf, side by side.
He really does.
He kind of reminds us that even characters who might seem straightforward on the surface, the skilled archer, can have these hidden depths, these profound personal journeys.
Absolutely. So thinking about all this, a final thought maybe for you, the listener.
Mm-hmm.
Tolkien intentionally kept Legolas a bit mysterious, partly for story reasons, right? Glorfindel being too powerful, needing a different kind of elf.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that affect how you see him? Do you think knowing more about his, say, 500 plus years before the Fellowship would make his journey during the War of the Ring more impactful? Or does the mystery actually add something? Would knowing all the details change how you view his friendship with Gimli or his quiet bravery, something to chew on next time you watch the films or pick up the books?